Okay, I think we will get started. It's 2:01. So thank you, Dan. Don't forget again, there's no game night. There's no Tony Paris selling raffle tickets. So we're doing it through through our webpage, through the donate link, the PayPal donate link, 1-for-1. Or 6 tickets for $5, and we're giving away a bunch of gift cards, including a couple $100 Amazon gift cards. Those might be the biggest prizes we've ever given away. I don't know. This is only like my 10th year of doing IMACC, but it would seem that way. And then of course, if you've been on the Facebook page, Diane's got a whole bunch of little awesome little math stuff to give away. So without further ado, as they always say, I'd like to introduce the Director of Academic Affairs for ICCB, and also I do believe a Kankakee High School graduate, right? Is that correct? Yes, woo, yes, yes, yes. So again, and what we're gonna do is Melvin's gonna go through his update, and then we'll open up the chat, or if you wanna speak up with some questions about stuff that's going on in the state of Illinois, because there's nothing going on right now, right, Melvin? I will give it to you.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate the invitation. I want you to be aware that I had some pepper soup that I made for myself. And so I sound a lot better than I did in the earlier meeting. So you all are getting a much better version of me than the folks who did earlier. But I appreciate the invitation and thank you so much for having me. I want to just share a couple of different updates. I did not prepare a PowerPoint or a thing to share with the slide, but I can email the document with my updates to you all, and you can disseminate it if that's necessary.
Yeah, why don't,
I'll,
yeah, Melvin, why don't you go ahead and send that to me? Send that to
okay,
me, and then I will send it out to you don't have to do that now. You can do it later, and then I can send it out. Would that be okay?
that's fine with me. That's fine.
Okay, awesome.
So the first thing is I want to talk about the transitional instruction and transitional math front. The IBHE and ICCB, as well as ISB, voted to approve and adopt updates to the transitional math course parameters and competencies document. The change made to the math document was simply to require that everybody establish a local advisory panel. Was to require that everybody establish a local advisory panel. That was not a requirement, and so at the advice of the Portability panel and the advisory committee, we went ahead and made that change, and it was adopted, and we got the final approval in January. And so the updated document is published and posted, and I will post a link of that document here in the chat, and I'll be sure to include it in my written comments and remarks that I'll provide. Additionally, the Transitional Math Portability Panel will meet next week, April 14th, via Zoom. Right now, there are 12 courses that were submitted to the panel for review. Um, and in addition to that, there are 297 offerings of transitional math courses across the state, uh, through across the three pathways. And there are only two community colleges as of yet who have not submitted a course in partnership with the local school district and high school. Um, as you may or may not be aware, ICCB supported institutions with grant funding to support their work on implementation of transitional math. Um, and the deadline for them, or the goal of that support, was to ensure that everybody had something to submit by the fall of 2021. So we continue with the expansion and the implementation of transitional math across the state through our community colleges. Also, you should know that ISB, in partnership with ICCB, is working with their virtual course providers to develop an online version of the transitional math course. to satisfy and comply with that component of the PWR Act. We are currently identifying a community college partner to recommend to work with the providers to develop an online course that can then be submitted for portability. It allows for students who are taking correspondence courses or who are taking courses through the virtual provider. It allows them opportunity to also take transitional instruction courses. This will require that they work with a community college partner. Um, it will require them to work with a community college partner, and it will require them to uh, go through and have the course vetted by the portability panel to ensure that it meets all of the proper criteria in order for it to be accepted for statewide portability. Um, Also, in addition to that, there is a bill out there now to consider offering baccalaureate degrees at community colleges. It's currently in the Senate committee, uh, undergoing review and debate and discussion. The focus of the bill is to address the shortage of early childhood providers, and it would allow for institutions, community colleges to offer baccalaureate degrees in early childhood education. You may recall that earlier iterations of bills similar to this included also bachelor's degree, Bachelor of Science in nursing. And of course, all of this is in relation to addressing workforce needs in the state. Currently, there are 24 states, including North Carolina, Georgia, and Washington, who allow baccalaureate degrees at community colleges. Updates and more information about that will be forthcoming. ICCB has not taken a formal position on this at this time, and so we'll update you as that continues to be developed. You may also need to be aware that the Developmental Education Reform Act was signed into law. This comes and was brought forth during the special session, legislative session that happened in January. The bill requires the implementation of the statewide placement recommendations that were recommended and adopted by the president, CAOs, and CSSOs of community colleges some years back, and it's and it allows us the opportunity, or it will allow for the opportunity. Um, it will allow for the opportunity for, or it will encourage, or does encourage, and require the implementation of and the use of these recommendations for placement purposes. I posted a link to that also in the chat for you. You'll also note that the final report of the SJR 41 task force, which was commissioned to explore the landscape and the offering of developmental education across the state at all of its public institutions, has completed its work and did submit its final report for to the legislature for review. Basically, what it found was that many people use a traditional sense. Most institutions offer courses in developmental ed courses in the traditional sense. However, there are some variances in how and some other working models that are implemented across the state among public institutions that could be used for scalability. The great thing about this report is that it does indicate and remind those who will read it that one size doesn't fit all, that the co-requisite model may or may not be the best option for all institutions, and the recommendation encourages that institutions be allowed to the flexibility to offer a variety of options and choices in how they offer developmental education courses. And lastly, I need to say that IBHE, in conjunction with ICCB, are in the process of developing the strategic plan for higher education. There have been a number of meetings and a number of versions of that report sent out to various stakeholders. Um, and that is a process that continues to be ongoing. As a matter of fact, today there's a strategic planning meeting. The Board of Higher Education has a strategic planning committee, and they meet regularly to update themselves on that process. And soon enough, uh, the draft will be out for public review and consumption, and you all are certainly welcome to add your comments to it as well if you have not already engaged in a variety of opportunities and engagement opportunities that have been made for various stakeholders to weigh in on that process. Um, I wish I had more information about that, but I have not been heavily involved with that. But if you have specific questions or anything about that, I'll be happy to take them at this time. That concludes all that I prepared for today to talk about, but I'm definitely available to talk more about anything that you all have and answer any questions that you may have.
So feel free to speak up or type in the chat. If we're getting a little slow on this, I definitely have questions for Melvin, but I'll wait to see if anyone else has some coming in. I guess they want me to break the bubble here. Okay, I will ask the first one. I got a couple, but I'll start with this one. So I got to make sure I look at my webcam and not at the screen. So in the bill that was signed back in March, we have to, of course, move towards using a single method in our multiple methods of placement, right? We have to if we have multiple measures, any one of those measures, if a student passes, I guess, any one of those measures, whether it's a placement test, GPA, or whatever, then they can get into the college level course. Is that kind of what we're looking at in the form of the placement procedure on that?
Yes. Typically, some folks use a variety or multiple, a variety of measures and combinations of measures in order to offer opportunity for students who may or may not met certain grade point averages, or may have not met certain placement measures. They allowed various or multiple combinations in order to determine placement. But the expectation the expectation is that if a student meets any of the measures that are implemented, then they should be placed in the gateway course.
Okay. So then a follow-up. Are we doing this in accordance to that to the ICCB form that came out in 2018 that was put out by the CAO group on those multiple measures? Because I guess my question is, college algebra was taken out of that. So I just would like to know, what math courses are we going to be using that for? Definitely statistics, definitely some sort of a quant lit gateway course. College algebra was not on that list. Oh, I think math for LED possibly was on that list too. But college algebra was not on that list because it is part of a STEM pathway. So I'm curious, do you know if there's going to be a push for college algebra to fall under this new, because I know calculus won't, but if college algebra will fall under this new placement method?
I'm not sure if college algebra would at this point. As far as I know, the whatever would currently be considered gateway under our current IAI structure would likely be what we would what we would expect to be expect students to be placed into. At the moment, college algebra, that conversation hasn't come up, so I would need to check back follow up with you on that with a response. But at the moment, I have not heard any conversations I have.
Okay, because college
Following
algebra is
algebra.
not an IAI course. Okay. Okay, I was just
Right,
curious
right.
about that. Okay. Other people with questions. I'm reading. Other questions? Speak up or type up.
So Jeremy had one that he posted earlier about House Bill 2170, and the way that we read it, it seems to restrict the number of developmental courses that we are allowed to have, one for every pathway. So that was Jeremy's question. And just one,
I don't.
is that correct?
Yeah, I see that response. I don't have an answer to that directly right now. I would have to look into it for sure. I do know that we have been encouraging folks to limit the number of courses that they do, or that at least there's been a move to limit the number of developmental courses that folks will take. But I'm not sure about the particulars of that, and I'll need to respond back. When I submit my written notes, I'll respond back with an answer to that question. There is a comment also in here about working together between colleges and high schools to ensure better math skills from high school grads. Part of the transitional instruction framework has been that these partnerships between high schools and community colleges exist. And so these courses are designed and implemented with that in mind. And so these transitional math courses are designed to bring students to a point to where they can be successful in gateway level courses based on the pathway that they're developed. And so that's certainly something that we as a system is encouraging folks to do. Also, in the omnibus bill, from this past special session, it also encourages, or there will be a number of studies and other responses to where high schools and community colleges, well, public universities and community colleges will review their criteria and make determinations on as to what would be considered necessary for students to take and skills to have that we can that will make them successful in the gateway courses. And so uh, that certainly is ongoing work that we'll continue to do, and it is will be done in conjunction with our school districts as well as community colleges and four-year universities. I'm just reading the chats here.
There was a question, is the DevEd Advisory Committee, do you know if that's still active?
Not sure that that's active. I think what has been active as of now has been the SJR 41 task force. That has been actively working. I anticipate that there will be some sort of advisory committee that will continue, and the DevEd Advisory Committee may be that. But what has been actively working as of now has been the SJR 41 task force.
And we had a question from Amy Madden. For transitional math, if a course was approved by the state portability panel in fall of 19, when would it next be reviewed by the state panel? So I guess what Amy is asking is there going to be ongoing review? I think what she's asking is if there is going to be ongoing review of transitional math courses. That's something I haven't thought about.
Yes, there will be ongoing review of transitional math courses. We'll base it off of the IAI system every 5 years. We'll call it up for ongoing review. That's something that is built into it. We haven't gone through 5 years worth of cycle just yet, so nobody's been called for ongoing review. So as we get closer to that moment, we'll continue to think through that process and how we want that to look and work.
All right. So Jeremy from Heartland was again asking for clarifications. He's asking specifically for some clarification concerning section 100-30 of House Bill 2170.
He already answered. He would have to follow up in written
Okay,
form,
he
but
did.
just
Okay.
for your clarification, as you whatever, that's the specific section I was referencing.
Gotcha.
Thank you
Just
so
for your
much.
assistance later on.
I'll make sure that I reference that particularly in my response.
And Jeremy followed up with my next question about these dual credit bills that are out there. House Bill 3644. That one's talking about how to allow students to enroll in dual credit courses who do not otherwise meet the community college's academic eligibility. I know that's the legislation end, and that's not really your end, Melvin, but do you have anything that you can update us on about that, about the Dual Credit Quality Act?
Well, there have been a number of bills that have been put forth to make some amendments about dual credit, one being changes to faculty qualifications, another being for opening and expanding opportunities for students with disabilities to be able to participate in dual credit. And so those are bills that are filed and they're going through the process. I don't know that we have an official position on any of them. At least with the faculty one, I know that our position will always be that they meet the required and minimum that faculty meet the required minimum qualifications that will be necessary and required by HLC and ICCB. So we'll continue to push for that. And it will be important for us to also ensure that all students who take dual credit courses have the ability to be able to take dual credit courses, and they meet the standards that are necessary in order to do that. You know, I realize that dual credit is, at least for me anyway, dual credit is a equity concern. It gives opportunity for students to possibly lower the cost and affordability, but it is important at ICB that students who take dual credit have the ability and the capacity to be able to be successful in those courses. You know, nobody wants to, I'll leave it at that. So that's where we are, and that's what we are. That's the position, as far as I know it, of where we stand at ICCB on dual credit. We'll continue to monitor it, and as this legislative session goes through its process and comes to a close, of course, we'll update and provide an update on where we stand and provide some guidance if necessary.
Abby Bailey asked, does ICCB have concerns that with this developmental act reform in House Bill 2170, that we could get a funneling, as she calls it, of people just going into art degrees instead of STEM degrees?
Not to my knowledge. Just personally, I think people are, I think workforce demands and interests continue to be a reason why students choose and make choices as to their, definitely one reason why students choose and make choices as to what they would study in their intended major. And so all of that has interest, all of that has impact rather, and bearing on the types of courses and the programs of studies that they create. We certainly have not seen that as it's not something that we've seen as a concern as of now. We continue to see interest grow in the STEM areas as far as the number of students who are taking them. So that's not something that we're concerned with at the moment, but that's an interesting question, and I'll have to do some digging into that and put that in the back of my mind, so and monitor that closely. We'll see how that lands.
Yeah,
Dan?
I think, yeah, so Abby and I both teach at Elgin Community College, and we're on a group that's working on this issue. And one of the issues that we come up with is students who have like seriously low current placement, maybe 2 or 3 levels below college level. And one solution to get them through in a year is to say, well, we'll put you in the gen ed track. we'll let you take our PMGE, which is the prep for Gen Ed, and then you can take the Gen Ed. And, we think that might work, but we feel uncomfortable forcing students there and not giving them the option to go through college algebra and the STEM track. So that's kind of where we're coming from, is if we have to get them through in a year, one solution is, well, if you're that low in our current placement, then you can only go Gen Ed. And that's kind of where we're uncomfortable, and that's what we're coming from, is if students can't add fractions, how do we get them to a STEM track within 1 year to take college algebra? We don't really have a good answer for that.
Gotcha. Well, and again, I need to look at what the law specifically says about the number of courses in a pathway, and I can respond to that in my written response to you about that in particular. But that's definitely a concern. But
Yeah.
our position at ICCB is that students would still need to be able to be successful in the courses. And so whatever's necessary in order for them to be successful, we would encourage institutions to support students to and through. Another thing too is, while students do have a lot of flexibility, I know a lot of students who are resilient, and if, I may not be able to place into what's necessary to get me into a physics course or get me through an engineering degree when I come in. But if that's the path that they choose to go on, then that's the path that we have to support them through. And whatever's necessary to support them through, the expectation from ICCB would be that the institutions will support them through that. And supporting them through that, it means that they have getting them to a place where they have the skills necessary to be successful in the course and to complete that degree program.
So I'm trying to go through these. A question from Linda Blanco. Does the state see the proposed dual credit law as a push for high schools to replace their junior, senior level math courses with dual credits, even though these courses like college algebra do not carry IEI transferability?
I don't necessarily think that we see it as an effort. It certainly has, again, there are a lot of benefits to taking dual credit, and there are a lot of benefits to expanding dual credit access. But we continue to remain supportive of expanding student access to dual credit for them who can and have the capacity to be successful in dual credit courses. There's a lot of work on the transitional math front, which is not dual credit in any way. But there are just a lot of different workings and happenings going on, and we certainly encourage dual credit for those who will be successful in dual credit to take it and to have it. But I don't see it or at least not from our view, that this is an opportunity to change out their junior and senior level requirements.
I just wanted to add, at KCC, the Tech Math Pathway is actually a dual credit course here. I think that puts us very unusual amongst the state, that our lowest level Tech Math course that we offer at KCC is the Transitional Math course. So we actually do it so where when a high school wants to do the Tech Math Pathway, it's actually considered a dual credit course for us, which is better than Transitional Math. Kudos to Kathy Omi for helping us move into that direction. So I just want to just kind of throw that out there. Chris Bailey asked, can a high school teacher be certified for a particular dual credit course, or is it the expectation that the certified designation apply to all courses? Does that question make sense, Melvin?
Say that again.
I will. Can a high school teacher be certified for a particular dual credit course, or is it the expectation that the certified designation apply to all courses? Chris, if you want to,
it would be required for let's see, not particular dual credit courses, no, but if a faculty member meets the qualifications to teach math course, then whatever would be required for the institution would also subsequently need to be required for the high school. Now, what courses they're approved for, that's a different that's a different conversation. As far as what courses are being offered, that would be in conversation between the institution and the school district as to what courses would be provided. But if a faculty member is qualified to teach college algebra and meets the 18 hours of math, it meets the 18 hours masters with the 18 hours in the discipline, then that faculty member would be qualified to teach any course that they would be qualified for to teach on a college campus, if that makes sense.
Chris, did that answer your question?
Yes, because my basic question is, if we have some instructors based on, I think the document that Jeremy just posted, it says something about, I forget how they parse it out, but it says something about math statistics, math general, and math calculus. And there's different, it's really the, what do they call it? The ways to meet those expectations. And they say the related experiences are different. So my basic question is, if somebody has this, if somebody has the dual credit certificate, can they teach a gen ed math course and only that course, or do they have to be allowed to teach, differential equations and so on? Or would they be allowed to teach differential equations? Are there ways to say, these are the courses that you would be permitted to teach? I can follow up.
It would depend on what agreement the institution and the school district has as far as what they are allowed to teach for dual credit. Ideally, if a faculty member is qualified to teach a math course, whatever the requirement is for a faculty member to teach math course on a community college campus, would also need to be that same requirement for a high school teacher to teach that dual credit course at a campus. So that's ideally what the expectation is. And so that's the masters with the 18 hours, at least the 18 hours in the discipline. So yes, but I can look more into your question and submit something in my written response about that in particular.
All right, we have another question from Abby, and then I see Linda's hand is up, and so we'll go to Linda's after Abby. So Abby's asking, do you know if will there be any state money available for extra support? And I assume Abby is meaning for about House Bill 2170. I think that's what she's talking about. Do you know, will there be any state money available for support?
Well, we do. We had for this fiscal year 2021, we had the Developmental Innovation grant, Development Education Innovation Grant, that was open and available for institutions to apply to as a way to be able to push that. There is a emphasis in our budget to support, at least through grant funds and other types of support, to support various innovations in developmental ed, and to give institutions opportunity to do a number of different pilots. And so there has been money made available. Of course, the budget for 2022 hadn't come out yet, but as that information is made available and funds are made available, and we'll definitely consider, or it is an effort for us to support institutions into making it possible for them to do what they need to do with their work. In regards to this development education reform. But there have been, for the last couple of years, there have been a number of grant opportunities and financial support options available and made available to institutions to do, to implement PWR Act requirements, as well as Dev Ed stuff. And we're transitioning now into a focus on Dev Ed reform and innovation.
Okay, thank you. Linda, what's your question? Don't forget you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Right, I just got it. Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, hi, Melvin. Thank you so much. My concern And I mentioned earlier, I am a former career high school teacher. So we're talking 34 years of high school. I've seen a lot, and I've taught everything from general mathematics up through calculus at the high school. And some of that time was at that junior year Algebra 2 trig. And what I saw there, even in my later years, so that was real, near to when I came community college, I saw students getting passing grades of D in there, moving on to pre-calculus at the high school, where maybe finally they would develop a couple math skills, but seriously, very much hurting. And now what we're seeing is some high schools wanting to replace their junior level course. And this is seriously, they're doing it with our college algebra course or similar to it. And then senior year, having them take gen ed maths, say a stats class first semester and a gen ed math second semester. I'm wondering where the advising requirement is, because this is not good for students. Because number one, if you had a student who was taking something equivalent to college algebra in the high school as a junior, they could be going off on many, many pathways. And you can't just put a STEM label on it, because let's take, for instance, a psych major. There are psych programs all over this state, even within some institutions, where some require only gen ed type maths like stats, and some require minimum college algebra, maybe into calculus. So students are, first of all, then being cut off from that because they leave high school thinking, oh, I've done all my college math already. And not only haven't they, but if they have to come back and do it, they're going to have to recreate some math. And here we go with the can of worms again. Now they're not prepared for the college math that they may have to take at a 4-year institution, or even with us at a 2-year institution. So there's a concern. There doesn't seem to be a concern on the part of the high schools, and it is very uncustomary, at least in our institution, which is Joliet Junior College, to have students take as a requirement for mathematics for graduation from college to take both a gen ed and a stats course. Usually they branch out. Some of the more artsy people take the gen ed math, and a lot of other disciplines take the stats, not usually both. Where's the guidance that I think the high schools should be getting, either from the state or should be required to get it from the college? Because they don't think we know what we're talking about when we say that this could even have financial aid repercussions. So that's a long-winded thing, but I hope, it's a huge concern for us. So thanks for addressing it.
I don't know that we necessarily thought about what guidance would look like on that front, but it's definitely something that I'll take back to our senior leadership, and we can talk more about what that would look like for us. Thank you for bringing that up, and I'll make a note of it so that I can discuss with them and see how we can move forward.
Thank you very much.
Other questions for Melvin? All right, so Melvin, you're going to send your rigorous one to me, right? And so I will send that out to all of you, because you're all IMACC members, actually. So you will get that. Oh, I think we just had a new one come up. Are there concerns about special ed students getting into college level math classes too early due to inflated high school GPAs? That comes from Chris Apoon.
Not sure. I know that there is a bill that would allow students with developmental disabilities to enroll and participate in dual enrollment. There is a effort to expand access to those students, but our position continues to be that the student has to meet the requirements in order to be in order to participate in dual enrollment, and that they have to meet the prerequisites necessary to be successful in dual enrollment.
I would add to that, Chris, I think it's important that we as our community colleges need to speak to our high schools, especially in the guidance area, about those concerns that you bring up, is to making sure that those particular students, and all students for that matter, are going to be prepared for college courses. Other questions? Okay. Melvin, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to discuss things that are going on statewide. And we do appreciate it. And everyone look forward to my email that will have the more detailed part of it. So I think that's it. Thank you, Melvin.
All right. Thank you so much again, y'all. And I will forward that. And if I miss anything in my written report, feel free to email me and I'll respond with my response.
All right. Thank you. So folks, we have about 19 minutes until our breakout sessions. So this gives you a chance to do some things you might need to do in this 19 minutes, go stretch for a while, or the things that you might have to do. So on that not very subtle note, we will see all of you again somewhere in one of our 3 wonderful breakout sessions at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much.